Welcome back to Her New Lens. I'm Tricia Rose Stone, and this is episode 4 of the Empowered Vision season. Over the last 3 episodes, we've done a lot of building. We talked about self-image, the internal picture that sets the ceiling on your life. We went into intimacy, what it means to be truly emotionally available for the love you want. And last week, we talked about visualization, the art of seeing it first, training your mind to hold the image of what you want before the evidence is there. And today I want to talk about what gets in the way of all of that, because this is why we do the inner work. We update the image we have of ourselves in our minds, we build the vision, and then something happens. It's subtle and completely unconscious. We pull back, we self-sabotage, we shrink back to what's familiar just when we're getting close to something real. Gay Hendricks calls this the upper limit problem, and his book, The Big Leap, is the most honest, clear-eyed explanation of this pattern that I have ever read. But before I get into his framework, I want to share something personal, because this episode isn't just about a concept. It's something I've lived with, something I'm still working on, and I think if I'm honest about it, you might recognize it in yourself too. I have 2 upper limits that show up most persistently in my life. And naming them out loud on this podcast is part of how I dismantle them. The first is, if I really succeed, I mean really fully, visibly succeed, I'm afraid that success at that level is an isolating, lonely place. And who will I connect with then? The second is, when I picture myself with the level of success I truly want, I immediately start to wonder, how will I balance all of this? My wellness, my travel, my personal interests, all the people I care about in my life, the things that make me me. I can't yet picture exactly how all of this fits together. And because I can't picture it, I don't fully pull the vision in. I'm sharing these not because I've solved them, but because naming them is the first act of moving through them. And because I suspect you have your own version of both, let's talk about it. So let's get into this. The minute I saw this book and I read about this, I felt the total resonance with what this message is. And I could see in my mind this internal thermostat. And for me, it's like the colors of the chakra for some reason. And each of us has a different internal thermostat for how much good we allow into our lives. And the good can come in many different forms. It can be success, how much love, how much joy, how much abundance. We have an unconscious limit on all of it. And can you picture this in your mind, that there's a range that you can allow? And again, going back to the previous episodes, it's because you can envision it for yourself. You can see it happening. And when you think of this method, when we exceed that limit, our subconscious mind brings us back down. So we're getting close to what we say we want. But then when we start to hit that limit that we actually will allow, something happens and we go back down. And that can happen through some kind of conflict, worrying, and just sabotaging ourselves. It doesn't feel like self-sabotage in the moment. Maybe it feels like bad luck or the other person's fault or just life getting in the way. But if you think about it, the pattern is universal. And it shows up most clearly when things are going well. So is that familiar to you? Like, things are going so well in your relationship with someone, whether it's your partner, your child, your family member, your best friend, and almost subconsciously you pick a fight. I mean, who hasn't been there? It's because you're getting to a point where you're going up to another level. And maybe there's a part of you inside that isn't really prepared to go there, to go to another level of joy, of connection, of happiness, of abundance. So there's a little part of you inside that brings you down a notch by picking a fight, doing something that will clearly irritate this person because you want to go back to the place you're familiar. And the same thing can happen with an opportunity. You can't wait to get this opportunity, whether, this job you want. And when it looks like this job is coming in and you're attracting it, you start undermining it to people in your life and saying, well, this boss is this way, or this commute is this way, or this company is doing this. You start to go back down to your comfort level. What Hendricks is saying, they are not coincidences. They are your inner thermostat resetting. And the idea of this upper limit is just a human problem. We all have it. And understanding it removes the shame from it and creates agency, because we realize we can almost get to the point where we know it's there and we can predict that it's going to activate. And then we can create agency about how we're going to manage it instead of falling victim to that upper limit. We can choose to act differently, say something different, behave differently, so we can actually move up to the level that we're hoping for. So just recognizing it allows you to begin to dismantle it. The quote that I want to pull from the book here to kind of nail this down is Gay Hendricks at The Big Leap says, "The upper limit problem is our tendency to place a limit on our own good energy owing to some imaginary restriction." So what does pulling back look like for you? Do you find yourself avoiding a certain action that you know is going to actually take you to the level you want to go? Do you find yourself staying busy with smaller tasks because you know if you actually do that big task, you might actually get the thing that you're looking for? I can say for me, I'm going to share one of my upper limit behaviors that pulls me back. And I'm going to go to the second one I shared in the introduction today about how I feel like I can't imagine myself being able to balance everything. So sometimes what happens to me is I'll be working and someone will offer me a really unique opportunity to speak in front of others and to share more about the work I do. And my first instinct is no, because I'm worried that if I go and speak at this event, this women's event, I might get too many women interested. And then if they all sign up, how will I balance this? How will I still have time for the things I enjoy doing? How will I have time to do my editing? How will I be able to get the blog content out? Like I start to create reasons why I shouldn't do this talk, even though this talk is the most directly aligned action to get me what I really want. So I see myself doing that and I acknowledge it. And I can also see it, like I can see it coming as I'm in that conversation with the person asking me to do the talk. I can witness this happening where I know that I could do it. It's really good for me, but there's a part of me that's already just moving me down on the thermostat to a point where I feel more comfortable. So I really get it. And I hope if you think about it and you can identify it, you can get it too. I hope this helps you also, so you can start to even see and recognize some of the patterns that might be sabotaging you as you are going for what you really, really want. So worrying is one of the most common upper limit behaviors, because when we're getting so close, we start to worry, we're bringing down our energy again. Worrying about anything, worrying about, you finally go out on that date with that person who you have been looking for, you think could be it. And then you start worrying, how's this going to work? He has kids. How are we going to blend this family? How are we going to manage the distance? Whatever it is, it's like in that moment, there's a part of you coming down because this could actually be it. And it might actually bring you to that dream. But instead of relaxing into it, the gift that's coming into your life, the gift that's coming your way, you start to worry yourself down the thermostat. Another thing I wanted to say are blame and criticism. They are also upper limit in disguise, focusing outward. Another classic one is getting busy with tasks that don't move you forward is a classic upper limit. So you start procrastinating because you know you're getting close So instead of tackling that major project, you say, oh, I'm going to procrastinate on that and do these smaller projects that might have nothing to do with your big goal. They might just be random. Like, I'm going to start cleaning out this craft drawer, or I'm going to start organizing my photos from 2020, 2015. Like, who knows? Anything to take you away from the bigger goal. I would even challenge you to say, what about mindless doom scrolling, just scrolling on the internet in general? Outside of it being addictive, is it possible that sometimes instead of really taking action and really doing that workout or talking to a matchmaker, if that's what you want, or whatever it is, instead of actually taking steps towards the goal, we choose, I speak for myself, to waste time on Instagram. That is an upper limit behavior because I'm not doing the thing. So the moment to watch more carefully is right after the breakthrough. That's when the upper limit strikes hardest. And then when you do actually break through that upper limit and you actually get there, you're actually on the date, the second date, the third date, that's when the upper limit strikes. That's when it's, maybe this isn't right. I'm going to start worrying. I'm going to start creating drama. I'm going to start creating problems because I want to bring myself down a few notches because I'm not sure I can expand enough to really receive what I know I truly want. So it's so useful to even recognize we have these upper limits so that we can work with them instead of against them, and not letting them have the power they have so that we can actually continue to move forward and towards the goal that we have in our minds. So it reminds me of the show Shrinking. I don't know if you watched that show with Harrison Ford. It's so adorable and charming. And there's a teenage girl, Alice, who has a single dad. Anyway, her dream school is Wesleyan, and she lives in California. And she gets accepted to Wesleyan. And what is her first reaction? Is she says, no, I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to go. I don't know if I want to leave everyone, because it could be her upper limit is starting to kick in and saying, no, 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 and start coming down, even though that's her dream. And then ultimately, at the end of the season, this season, she ends up going. So she overrides her upper limit belief, her upper limit behaviors, and she's able to go to college at Wesleyan. But I feel like that's a really good example of that happening. Is like you want it, and then you get it, and then you really panic. Wait a minute. I don't know if I can do this. This is not good. Maybe this isn't going to work. And your system has to move up that thermostat to be able to receive that gift. So let's talk about the 4 barriers. And this is more about the heart of the Hendricks framework. And he says that beneath every upper limit problem is one of 4 barriers. False beliefs held so deeply that we never question them. Identifying yours is the beginning of everything. So barrier number 1 is I am fundamentally flawed. I mean, it's hard to even say this, but it's a relief to know we all have it. This is a common barrier. It's the belief that there's something wrong with me, so I'm not going to get that. Or if something good happens, I'm going to mess it up because good things don't happen to people like me. So this is a very deep, unconscious thought. The barrier number 2 is disloyalty and abandonment. If I succeed, I'll leave other people behind. If I rise too far, I'll break the loyalty to where I come from. And success in some way feels like a betrayal. So it feels like if I actually get that thing, like Alice on Shrinking, maybe I'm abandoning my family or I'm disloyal in some way. And the next 2 are mine more, so I'm going to get into that. The burden barrier, that's the belief that your success may be a burden to other people. Like if you shine too brightly, someone else will feel small. Or like, how do you embody that levels of success and have it not be a negative to other people? And that feeling when you're happy, but you feel like it's selfish to feel this happy when people around you are struggling. That's what this is. It's Can I be happy and fully live when other people I care about aren't exactly as happy? That can be a very powerful barrier to actually moving into that state of happiness. And also expanding further is if I succeed fully, I'll become someone others cannot relate to. So there's a negative to fully becoming and actualizing the dream I have. So that's another barrier. It's basically nothing more than fear dressed up as loyalty, but it's not real. It's just a ceiling. And barrier 4 is the capacity barrier. This is also one that I have. A belief that you won't be able to handle the success if it arrives. Not that I don't deserve it, but I don't know if I'll be able to sustain it. And that's about, for me, picturing how the success would look in my life and witnessing being able to still travel and have the relationships I have and balance personal life all around it. Because if I can't picture it fully, then it's hard for me to pull it in. There's a part of me that's resisting going up because I don't know. I can't see myself balancing it all. So that inability to see it all together is creating an upper limit. And that visualization piece, not being able to see it, is directly tied to the last episode right before this one, where we talked about process of visualization. The fear that I'm guessing women have, a lot of women, not just me, that if you get to a certain level, you won't fit in anymore, you won't belong. And I feel like that could be like a primal fear. And it's nothing more than a fear and a thought, and it can be changed. So the belief that if I have the success I dream of and really deeply want, somehow I will live an isolated life because I won't be able to relate to others. That is not true. That is a fear, but I have to see it for what it is and then find ways to expand beyond it so that I can actually visualize it and pull it in. So which of these barriers can you see for your life? Okay, now we're going to talk for a minute about some of the zones. So the upper limit problem exists because there's something on the other side of it worth protecting against. Your zone of genius. The place where you do what you're uniquely brilliant at effortlessly in full alignment with who you are. The upper limit keeps you just far away enough to feel safe. So he talks about the different zones, the incompetence, things you're not good at, the competence, things you do adequately, zone of excellence, the things you do very, very well and you're rewarded for, but you don't really love. And that's where a lot of high-performing women are, the zone of excellence, because you get a lot of credit there, a lot of validation, a lot of praise, which makes it hard to leave. But if you stay there, it's an upper limit because beyond it is the zone of genius, which is the work that feels effortless, fulfilling, and completely yours. Where time disappears, you feel the most alive and your unique contribution lives. Most people spend very little time here, not because they can't access it, because the upper limit pulls them back. So most people don't spend time there. They stay at the zone of excellence. They don't go into the zone of genius. It's just a little bit scary. It's a little bit further up the scale than we're comfortable going. So I want to ask you, which zone are you spending most of your time in right now? And is there a part of you that already knows the answer and has been avoiding it? And also another thing I want to ask you is, where is your zone of genius right now? What does it look like when you're fully in it? And what does the upper limit do to pull you back out? This is where your personal story and the framework merges. So we're going to spend time in the zone of genius so we can get really comfortable being in it. One little side note about the zone of genius is the fear is not that it won't work, it's that it will work and everything will change. And it requires you to be out there, fully seen, and it's exactly what the burden barrier is protecting you from. Can you relate to this at all, where you felt yourself moving past your upper limit into your zone of genius, regardless of what it was. Can you picture yourself being there where it's effortless? It's a state of flow. It's a state of complete connection to what you're doing. And then what happens to pull you out of it because you're just not used to feeling that way. I just completed a 21-day manifestation challenge with Gabby Bernstein. And she talks about co-creating with the universe when you're in this higher state. And that is, to me, what I'm interpreting this zone of genius to be, is you're in a state of true flow where you're aligned with your highest self, the universe. Things are flowing so effortlessly. And it takes a different level of being because there's a part of you that surrenders to it and allows it to be there. Even though it's uncomfortable, it's not where you're used to residing. Maybe you're used to residing around a 7 on the scale, and this is pushing you way up to a 9.5 or 10. So there's a part of you that's familiar that wants to bring you down to the 7. But when you're up there at this high level and you're able to access this zone of genius, Hendricks says, I think you are co-creating so powerfully, and things are coming in, and it can happen very fast, and it can be like, whoa, slow down. But when we're open to it, we can allow the things to come in and experience them, the things that we say we've been wanting and the things that we do want. So now let's talk about what we're going to do to dismantle the stories that are blocking us from getting what we want. And we've talked a lot about awareness, having awareness of what is stepping in to bring us back down. But now we're going to honor that important first step, but it's not enough to dismantle this upper limit in this belief. Once we can name the barrier, catch the pattern, interrupt it consciously, the ceiling can begin to lift. So let's go through the steps that he suggests in this book. Number 1, name it. Which barrier is yours? Say it out loud, write it down. As we said before, naming it removes shame and creates distance. Number 2, catch the pattern in real time. What does your upper limit behavior look like? Is it worrying? Is it picking fights? Is it getting busy? Is it Instagram scrolling? What is it? And then you could stop and choose differently. And number 3 is to complete the vision. This is specific to the capacity, my barrier, which is if you can't picture the success and the full life coexisting, you've got to figure out a way to build that picture. And that can be going back to the last episode, the one before this. It's In Her New Lens, episode 30, but this season it's episode 3, and do an outcome visualization and see the version of your life where all works together and begin to imagine it. How does it work? And number 4, question the isolation fear directly and say, is it true if I achieve the success I dream of? Will it make me unrelatable to my friends? Or is it possible that the success will connect me to a new community, people who are building what I'm building? So, what do you think? In To Be Magnetic, they recommend being around expanders, and expanders are people that have what you want. And when you're with them, then you can start to observe and see how it even looks, and then you can begin to pull some of that energy in, and it may help you to create your own vision. So it's really hard to visualize it if you've never seen it before, but when you've been around it, and maybe you expand, you have people in your life that say, oh, this woman I just met, she actually does have a thriving business, and she has a family, and she spends time with her family on the weekends, and she gets a lot of joy out of working during the week, and you can start building that vision more for yourself. So that, I think, is a really great example of upper limit, like working through that upper limit with visualization. So I'm challenging you in the next week to name your barrier. Which is yours? Write it down without judgment. Just name it. And to catch it this week, notice once this week when your upper limit shows up. What triggered it? What did it make you do? Just observe. And number 3, complete the vision. If your barrier is the capacity fear, spend 10 minutes this week visualizing the full life, not just the success, but how wellness, relationships, personal life all coexist together within this dream that you have for yourself. Make your incomplete vision complete. So, what did you think? I hope this got you thinking. So, the stories blocking your vision. They are not random. They are not bad luck. They are a pattern, a deeply human, completely understandable pattern of pulling back from the very thing we say we want just when we're getting close to it. I shared mine today. The fear that success at a certain level means losing belonging, that I'll succeed my way into isolation and loneliness, and the fear that I won't be able to hold it all together, that I can't yet picture how the full life actually balances. I'm not sharing these because I've solved them. I'm sharing them because naming them is part of how they lose their power. Because I think if you've been listening to this season, doing the self-image work, holding the vision, building the practice, you deserve to know the woman guiding you through it is still doing the work herself. The upper limit is not the end of the vision. It is the last layer of protection the old self-image puts up before it changes. And when you can see it for what it is, a story, not the truth, something shifts. Next week, I have a guest episode for you. A woman who rebuilt her identity from the ground up, and what she found on the other side is going to reframe everything we've been talking about this season. She is the living proof that the upper limit can be crossed. I cannot wait to share her with you. If today's episode landed, share it with the woman in your life who is ready to name her story. That's how this work spreads. I'll see you next week. Until then, name it, catch it, complete the vision. Bye for now.